Hey, HappiDaze Day, and in today's video we're going to go ahead and take a look at the latest PKA Sugo Fest that just came out, the end of the month Sugo. Apologies I haven't been putting out too many videos, had some minor dental issues, got them taken care of, we're good. Mouth feels good again, so we can do some more recording. So we're going to take a look at the Sugo Fest, at the characters themselves, see if they're worth pulling. Spoiler, you probably shouldn't be pulling for end of the month legends. My criteria is really, unless the legend is like super broken or has a mechanic that is really unique to it, or is broken in PvP, it's really not worth pulling for it. And that's the case for this banner. That none of these units are worth blowing all your gems for. Global anniversary is right around the corner. Not too long after that, you're going to have the Japanese anniversary. So, yeah, just a lot of events coming up, a lot of good units, and you can pull these on any Sugo Fest going forward. So it's not critical that you pull them now. So that being said, let's take a look at the Sugo Fest first, see what it looks like. 10% red rate, that's always good, better than 7.5 that you sometimes get. Obviously not as good as the 15% that we got from New Year's, but still, 10% isn't bad. It just depends on what the legends are. So if you're not unfamiliar with these banners, typically what they do is, with releasing 2 new legends, on part 1 you could pull both of them. However, the pull for the legends is extremely huge, including all the legends that are usually released in the game, so your chance of pulling them is slightly reduced for pulling a specific one. And you have a lot of chances of getting a bunch of really old units that might not be useful for you anymore unless you don't have them level limit breaked. So that's kind of the downside of part 1. Part 2, you're guaranteed to get them on the 30th, which is kind of crazy, but you can get them on the 30th multi if you want to go all that way. Part 2, you'll get the Usopp and the Lilith. Part 3, you'll get the Nami and the Sanji. But again, please don't go to 30 multis. Like, just please don't. That being said, let's just take a quick look at what we can do for this banner. They do have a rare recruit, Frankie and Brooke. We'll get into them as well. Just quickly take a look at their skills. But they're the 2 new rare recruits, and the legends are the Usopp and Lilith, and the Nami and Sanji. So that being said, let's just kind of scroll down. Let's just talk about the gem sales that are there. These are the new characters for the event. Part 2 starts days after each other, and then Part 3 starts a day after Part 2, so you like to see that. I like when that happens. It's always good so you don't have to wait if you do want to pull these characters. And you can see, like, the steps are just absolutely god-awful, which is why I don't recommend pulling on this banner. But yeah, you can see all the steps here. As I mentioned, 30th on Part 2 is the Usopp and Lilith. 30th on Part 3 is the Nami and Sanji. So let's just take a look at some of the other characters that are out here and see if there's anyone who might be worth pulling on any of these different parts. So obviously Dory Broggy are pretty good on here. Momonosuke has some niche use cases in terms of his support. It's actually really good for getting rid of resilience. He can go on some Luffy units, give some end-of-turn damage. So that's always good. Outside of that, not really seeing anyone else that's really too crazy or good on this Part 1. So yeah, that's kind of what Part 1 looks like. And then the limited pool is just the cut-down version of that, so we're not going to really dig into that too much. And then the one down part of pulling on Part 1 is that you're not even guaranteed one of the new 2 legends if you go up to 30 multis on Part 1. It's a limited pool that has these 8 characters on it. So yeah, like that's why it's just not even worth pulling for it, just because the steps are literally just hot garbage. So that is Part 1. Let's take a look at Part 2 real quick. See if there's any really must-have units on here in terms of legends. So yeah, not really. I mean, obviously the Killer and Kid is pretty good. He can do some stuff in PvP. He has some good mechanics with the special there. But outside of that, and then the Hiyori can give you some Wano orbs, which is really good. But outside of those 2, not really much on here that's like, oh, you really want to pull on this banner for those units. So again, nothing kind of too tempting there on Part 2 if you have a pretty stacked box. On Part 3, you just have the Galaxy Impact Garp, which is good. A lot of people haven't been able to get him. It has the Law Beppo, which of course is good. Outside of that, the Chopper does have some cases, in cerebral teams and PvP sometimes for healing, things like that. Also gets rid of a bunch of debuffs. That's good. But yeah, outside of that, there's not really a lot of great legends on Part 3. So that's why ultimately, if you were to ask me, like, are you pulling? I would say for these end of the month batches, 9 out of 10 times it's not worth pulling. So that being said, don't bother going into that. In terms of rare recruits here, nothing kind of too crazy. A bunch of the previous batches that have come out in the last couple months here, but none of these units are really like must-have rare recruits. I've used the Zoro for stuff. Obviously the Beckman and Shanks I've used for some stuff, but not too frequently are these rare recruits used. So if you don't have them, it's not a huge deal there. So yeah, that is the Sugo Fest itself. Let's actually take a look at the characters, see what they do, see if they're worth pulling. You know, like I said, unless they're broken, they're not worth pulling. And I don't think that these guys are actually broken. So let's take a quick look at first the Usopp and the Lilith character. So Shooter and Cerebral, Strength and Dex unit. Nothing in terms of potential abilities like Final Taps, anything like that. It's a good thing to note. So let's take a look at what their capability can do first. So boost Strength, Dex, Cerebral, and Shooter. Character's HP by 1.35, attack by 5.75, and go up to 6 if you have Recovery, Tandem, Empty, Bomb, or Super Bomb slots, and it makes all those slots matching. So up to 6 times multiplier. It's kind of respectable. It's in line with other legends that have been coming out recently. So nothing too crazy there. And then if you tap on this character with one of those slots that I mentioned before, then you can basically make those slots have damage that are similar to rainbow slots. So not bad. Obviously, if you have a unit that can give you like full bar or tandem slots, like the Sabo that came out with the New Year's, that's perfect with his Super EX. So it's good that there's a bunch of different units that can kind of do that, and it's not just tandem, right? You can do all these different orbs. If you need bombs, of course, there's tons of kids that can help get you the bomb slots. Recovery, there's a bunch of units that can help get you full orb of recovery. So I do like that it's pretty flexible in terms of what it can do, and you get that 2.5 multiplier for there, which is pretty good as well. So yeah, nothing kind of too bad there. So yeah, all you have to do is tap on a character with those slots, and then you get that for a couple turns, which is good. So yeah, perfectly okay captain ability. Nothing kind of too crazy or broken, but it's okay. It's just an okay ability there. They do have. Let me just break down into the individual units, because depending on which unit you start off, you do get different things that are happening. So if you start off as Usopp, for example, then you get Strength, Dex, Cerebral, and Shooter character attack by 3 times for 5 turns. Switch effect down by 2. And then you also gives a 4.5 HP, attack boost, and a 1.35 HP boost. And you can go up to 5.5 if you have any of those orbs that I mentioned before. And then it makes a bunch of those orbs matching. So it doesn't do the full set like the empty matching or things like that, but you can see it still gives you a good amount. So if you're using Usopp, you're really using him to get the attack boost for 5 turns. That's pretty good. It just automatically gives that for 5 turns. 3 times is good because a lot of the newer legends that have come out have you required to at least have a 3 times multiplier in order to further increase that damage. So again, that's pretty good. You'll be able to hopefully get that up to like a 4, maybe a 4.5, depending on which characters you're using or which specials you're using of your other units. But the fact that it's at least 3 times is good, and for 5 turns is pretty good as well. So that is for Usopp. Let me just swap over to Lilith real quick, see what she does. So she gives you the chain multiplier, minimum of 3, max of 35 for 5 turns. So again, this will be really helpful to get through a bunch of stages. You won't have to worry about any of the chain down debuffs, anything like that. It kind of automatically helps that out for you. And also reduces their switch effect by 2 as well. It gives a 4.5 attack boost, 1.35 HP. You can go up to 5.5 if you have any of the slots that we mentioned previously, and then makes a bunch of those slots have matching slot effects. So if you want to use attack boost, Usopp. If you want a chain multiplier, then you use Lilith. And like I said, the 5 turns is really good. Again, because it's you won't really have units that are going to do too much crazy stuff on the chain multiplier. Like I said, like orbs and attack, you have a bunch of units that can buff those up to past 4 times. But it's not really one of those for chain multiplier. So that's kind of the downside of the Lilith version of that. So let me just go back to their dual form again. So that kind of broke down what each of them do individually. But let's take a look at what their actual special does real quick. Delays all enemies for 1 turn or no immunity. So very similar to what the original Dex Usopp had of his special ability. Through immunity is great. Love to see that. And then you can do Super Tandem with Bomb, Super Bomb for 3 turns. So that's kind of the new gimmick that Bandai's been doing recently, right? Be able to do Super Tandems with different various slots that aren't tandem slots. So again, it's cool. It's interesting that it's Bomb and Super Bomb, but it's pretty cool. And then lastly, reduce all damage nullification by 3 turns. So that's actually really good. There's not a ton of units that can do damage nullification, and even less that can do it for more than 1 or 2 turns. So the fact that you can actually have a unit that can do it for 3 turns, and this is that gold shield icon, is pretty awesome. So I like to see that. That's pretty awesome. If you have a attack boost or a lock chain multiplier effect at the time the special is launched, so obviously if you use the special during one of those first 5 turns, you'll beat this condition. Increases damage taken by 1.75 for all enemies. And it can go up to a further 1.25 if the enemy already has the increased damage on them. So the one downside here is that actually does all enemies and ignores immunity. So actually that's actually pretty good. Yeah, so you just do a bunch more damage there. Like I said, the only condition is you'll have to launch their special within the first 5 turns before that buff from their capability wears off. But if you can do that, like you'll be doing a good amount of damage there, so it's not too bad. And then if you have a attack boost when the special is launched, then it sets the chains multiplier to 2.75 and maximum value up to 35 for 3 turns. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So if you're, for example, have Usopp, and you start off with Usopp and then you use the special, you basically get the chain multiplier that the Willits captain ability gave herself. Obviously it's a little bit reduced. It doesn't start at 3. But still, that's pretty good for 3 turns. So that's actually not terrible in terms of what it can do. You'll have an attack boost. You'll have the chain multiplier. Neither had to wait to get orbs increased, so I'm guessing that might be the Nami Sanji unit who can do the orb stuff. But yeah, it'll give you a good amount of attack there. And then after the chain multiplier, if you have the attack already on you, it boosts strength dex, shooter, and cerebral character's attack by 2.75 for 3 turns. So yeah, just give you attack buff, so and becomes Lilith and Usopp as a dual unit for 3 turns. So yeah, I mean it'll give you a lot of stuff. You're doing a lot of damage, right? You get the attack boost, you get the increased defense, then you get the chain multiplier. And if you use it as Lilith, obviously if you already have the chain multiplier, you'll get the attack boost. Obviously it's not as high as Usopp's 3 times, right? But it's still 2.75 for 3 turns. So either way, you're going to have a chain multiplier and attack boost, which is just pretty good. So overall, like their capability was kind of, like I would say it's maybe like 6 out of 10 maybe. Their special ability, I'd probably rate it roughly the same. Maybe give it a 7 out of 10. But yeah, it's good. You'll be doing a lot of damage and you get a bunch of buffs. But yeah, it's going to be tough to pull this unit. So that's why that's kind of the downside there. Nothing kind of here that you can't do with other units, which is why I say if it's not a unit that does something that is kind of unique to that unit, it's not usually worth pulling. And in this case, there's tons of units that can do delays, tons of units that can give you attack and chain locks, so it's not the end of the world if you don't have this unit. Let's take a quick look at her rumble stats, see what they are. So they are a debuffer style unit. In terms of what they can do at level 5, they give shooter cerebral class teammates attack up level 6, speed up level 6 for these seconds of battle. Gives all enemies CT speed down level 5, so that's obviously fantastic. And if you have 6 or more cerebral characters on team, it reduces defense down level 5. So very similar to units like Nami and Karina, who are also cerebral. This character will allow you to basically get all your enemy CT down really quick, which is awesome. If you combine this guy, for example, with the Int Blackbeard Law unit, you could severely nerf the CT speed of your opponents and just let yourself go, even without having Nami and Karina. If you just had that unit, just the Blackbeard unit. Now, obviously, he's not a cerebral, but the fact that you only need 6 cerebral characters or 6 shooters on the team to do some of these buffs, that means you could, of course, have up to 2 characters who aren't cerebral, who you could throw on your team that can go ahead and take care of that for you. So I think that you'll see a lot more play on the cerebral side of these teams, just because that's a much more built up PvP class than shooters. But yeah, the fact that you're going to have CT speed down level 5 for the first 40 seconds of the battle, that means like whatever units, if you have the Nami, Karina, and this unit on your team, whatever your other 3 units are, they're pretty much almost guaranteed to be able to go before the other team can get it. So if you had some crazy combinations there, maybe like Int Hawk or some enemies that could hit through defense, yeah, you'll be cooking with fire with this guy. So that's kind of the really good part about this character, and that's just the the normal ability of the captain. I mean the special ability, right? And they have the ability to get a charged. Oops, sorry, we'll go back into that. And they have the ability to get a charged special as well. So let's just take a quick look at level 10. So like it's a 20 CT, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So targets 3 enemies for defense down at level 6. Again, really good. So even if you don't have that buff of having those 6 cerebral or 6 shooters, you can still get some defense down on your enemy, which is good. It gives a special CT delay of 20%. So not only is your captain ability knocking out your opponent's CT speed, then you're minusing by 20%, right? So if you combine this with the Nami and Karina, you're pretty much like taking a huge chunk of your enemy CT away, and they're just not gonna have a chance to really go before you go. And that 20 CT is absolutely ridiculous. And then again, if you have 6 or more shooter or cerebral characters on the team, you can target one enemy with high CT for action bind for 15 seconds. So that's kind of whatever. Like that's just like a little addition that they kind of throw on there. Not the greatest. I mean, I guess it's okay because it'll prevent them from going for a little bit. But the fact that there's only one enemy isn't really that great. But let's see their super special. So they do have to take, take 3 specials to activate this, and basically it gets a 50% delay, and then if you get 6 or more shooter super characters on the team, targets 3 enemies with high CT. Okay, so that's much better. Like their Rumble super special is really good. Wow. Yeah, the fact that it goes from 20 to 50% and it goes from 1 enemy to 3 enemies, action bound for 20 seconds, that is really good. Yeah, this guy is going to be just an absolute pain to deal with. Now, the one saving grace, I guess, of this unit is that it is a 55 cost unit. So, of course, that means you're going to have to slot it in with one of the main legends that you have. Typically, that means that you're not going to be able to have much back-end support on the bench. So if you're able to clear that front line with teams that are really legend-heavy, then usually you're good to go. But the fact that they're going to be able to to really get their squad members to go before you can go first means that, like, to counter this team, you're probably going to have teams that have revives. So that way, you can tank all those specials that they're going to let their team do before you get your chance to go off. And then just hope that with your specials, you can kind of come back and take out, the front line, and then the back line should probably be just kind of filler units. Hopefully they don't have a bunch of 20 cost units on the back line as well. But like I said, if you have 5 units on the front line that are all legends, that's a huge chunk of your points already, right? So you're not gonna have too much room on your bench for really good units that aren't kind of fodder there. So. Yeah, it'll be a pain to deal with this guy, definitely. I don't know realistically like how it will play out. I haven't played this guy myself in any PvP matches. Haven't seen him in any PvP matches, so it's tough for me to say, like, is he gonna be broken? It doesn't feel like he will be. But at least that's my thought process for now. I don't think he'll be broken in PvP. He'll be a menace to deal with. He'll be a pain to deal with. But like I said, I don't think he's going to be absolutely broken. Could be completely wrong. Maybe once I actually play against them, I'll realize how crazy they actually are. But at least for now, I don't think they're super broken. Really good, fantastic, but not broken. So that alone, I don't think is enough for me to recommend pulling on this banner. So yeah, that explains the Usopp and the Lilith unit. Let's hop over to the Nami Sanji unit real quick. See if they have something separate in their abilities as well. But so if you launch it as Nami, you get Dex, Quick, Fighter, Super Character slot effects by 3 times for 5 turns. So okay, this is where the slot effects come from. They didn't have it in the other units, so that makes sense. Again, switch reduced by 2. And then you get a 5.25 attack if slots match, 4.5 otherwise, and makes Dex, Quick, Recovery, and Tandem slots have matching slot effects. Okay, so not bad. They are a cerebral fighter unit. And again, Dex and Quick are the unit types there. So yeah, just to kind of go into that. And then if you end up using the Sanji unit as the unit that you start out with, basically you get a chain multiplier 2.5 for 5 turns. So yeah, with the Lilith and the Sanji here, you can actually like start your chain off at almost a six times minimum chain, which is pretty nuts. Again, 5 turns. Love to see that it's a bunch of turns, which is really good. And again, reduce the character switch effect by 2. You get Dex, Quick, Fighter, and Cerebral characters HP 1.35, attack by 5.25 when slots match, otherwise 4.5. And again, Dex, Quick, Recovery, Tandem slots have matching slot effects. So the Sanji here can really boost the Lilith. The Nami kind of seems like she's off by herself because of the fact that she boosts the orbs. Doesn't really complement the other units on the other unit there. But the fact that you get now have the ability to get a attack boost, an orb boost, a chain multiplier, and a chain addition for 5 turns at the start of quest if you use both of these characters is pretty nuts. So yeah, you definitely like to see that. It'll let you do a ton of damage with just those 2 units, and you get 4 buffs with 2 units, which is pretty insane. So that's what the captain abilities do. Let's take a quick look at the specials. Applies paralysis, 6% chance of not able to reduce action turns, so enemies for 2 turns, ignoring immunity to all status effects. So that's good. Paralysis is always good through immunity. Of course, only a 6% chance, so that's kind of a pain, but it is what it is. And changes left column slots, including block to tandem, and right column slots, including block to recovery. So again, that's great. Any special that can get rid of block orbs is always good. And then reduces all enemies threshold by 7 turns. Again, fantastic buff that not a lot of units can get rid of that many turns. So I'd like to see that. That's good. And then if you have a slot effect boost or additive chain multiplier boost, so what's given by their captain ability, when you launch, it does an increased damage taken to all enemies by 2.25 for 1 turn, ignoring immunity to anything, which is good. And then if you have a slot effect boost, when the special is launched, it boosts the chain multiplier by 2.0 for 3 turns. Then after that, boost Dex, Quick, Fighter, and Cerebral character slot effects by 2.75 for 3 turns. So again, this is just trying to help that if you use one of these units and you don't have a second unit of the same, you can still get some of their buffs that they provide, just as not a high of an effect. So that is nice. That is so if you're not running dual units, let's say you're actually trying to use these guys as subs. It actually helps out a lot. So good to see that. Like to see that. Let's take a quick look at their potential abilities. So nothing kind of too crazy there. The Hunger is always good. Barrier Pen is always good. Let's just see, is it? Yeah, HP is 50% or higher, you get Barrier Pen. So yeah, that's pretty good. The Hunger is always good to remove. So yeah, from that point of view, potential abilities are quite fine. So we're going to look at Rumble real quick. Fighter, you get HP up 6, defense up 6, self-attack up 5, defense up level 5. And when you deal damage, you can increase your attack, and then when you receive damage, you increase your defense. So, I mean, Fighter's in a tough spot right now. There's not really a great meta Fighter team. So yeah, this is kind of a rough buff. Obviously, the defense up is good, but yeah, it's a little tough to use fighters in meta, so I don't know how much play that captain ability is really going to help out. Take a look at the Rumble and the Super Rumble special. So level 10, CT 29, so not like super high, but not 20 like Usopp had, right? So yeah, let's get into what they can actually do. Gives an attack up level 7 to themselves, defense up level 7, critical percent up level 7, and then targets enemies within a large range for 4 times damage. I mean, it'll be a good hit. It would have been nice if it was like 3 times, but it did through defense. Right there, their attacker style, yeah, their attacker style unit. So the fact that that it's just going to do that, it would be better if it was a little bit better. And an 80% chance of paralysis, like that's kind of is what it is, right? You don't see really paralysis too often on a bunch of units in Pirate Rumble. And if they have their specials, they'll get it kicked off anyway. So, yeah, ultimately, I'm not super impressed. They basically just get a 4 times damage in a large range with their special. Now, granted, their captain ability will buff up their attack. This will buff up their attack, right? So, I mean, they'll hit pretty good. Like they might hit for a couple K, but it's not going to be near what someone like S-Hawk or Strength G5 Luffy, or what those guys can do in terms of just raw damage they can do. So let's see if it gets any better on the Rumble Super Special. So let's see what the requirement is. So we'll only have to take Rumble Special 2 times, so that's good. That's not a ton. Basically, they give everyone attack up level 10, defense up level 10, critical percent up level 10, and then does a times 5. So that's a little bit better. Like the 5 times damage is a lot better. And the 100% chance of paralysis is so much better, right? I mean, it says 80%. Like, I've seen a lot of cases where you have high percentage of paralysis chances, and no one ever gets paralysis in PvP, right? So the fact that it's 100% chance for 30 seconds is good. Much better, at least in the base form there, and a lot more value. And the fact that you only have to take 2 is actually pretty good. So I do like that. Again, the 5 times damage is great. You get the attack up level 10, which is just higher, which is good. And you'll be able to just do a bunch more damage there. But still, like, I think out of the 2 units, I think obviously the Lilith and the Usopp are probably better, even though they're the debuffer style. I just think that there's more utility in terms of what they can provide, and the fact that, you know, they're in classes that are more meta than the fighter means that you'll see much more play with that Usopp and Lilith unit than you will with the Nami and Sanji. So that's the 2 legends that are there. Let's take a quick look real quick at the rare recruits that are out there to see if they can do anything. Usually they don't do anything good on their captain ability. Yeah, it's just a 4 times. Yeah. Guard awful ability there. In terms of what he can do for his special, so this is the Frankie. Reduces crew switch effect and versus effect gauge by 2, so that's good. So, you know, with this guy, you'll be able to at least get, you know, 4 reduction with the Lilith or the Nami, Sanji, or Lilith and Usopp. You know, they already get 2 from their captain ability, so just reduce another 2. I'd like to see that. Get rid of despair, which is okay. There's a lot of ways to get rid of despair today, so it's not the end of the world. And then give strength, dex, and quick characters chain multiplier growth rate and increase. So, you know, combine the Lilith with the Sanji with this guy, and you're gonna be able to hit that 35 probably without too much craziness or too much hard work if you want to do that. And then if you have 2 or more turns remaining on your attack boost, it reduces the duration by 1 turn, but increases the crew's attack boost by 0.5. I don't like that. Like, the benefit of having 5 turns is that you're able to keep that buff for quite a long time, right? And the fact that you could use one of the New Year Legends, for example, to increase that buff, you know, from 3 times to maybe like a 4 times or 4.5 times, right? The fact that you can do that without having to sacrifice anything, and then you have one of the rare recruits in here where you have to actually sacrifice to do that, I'm not feeling it. Not for a 0.5 increase. Like, if it was like maybe like a 1 or a 1.5 boost, that might make more sense, but it's tough to justify giving up that 1 turn for just a 0.5 increase. So, like, that's pretty low, unfortunately. So yeah, let's see if he has any Rumble stats. Yeah, absolutely nothing on the Rumble side. I didn't check if they actually had any GP stats. Let me just quickly check if these guys had any GP stats. Sorry, I forgot to check. Yeah, that's absolute garbage. You'll never use that GP on that unit. Let's check on here real quick. Yeah, again, you won't ever use the GP on these 2 units. So you'll just use them on normal Rumble. Alright, so that was Frankie. Let's go ahead and go into Brook real quick, see what he can do. Again, just an absolutely terrible captain. You'll never use him as captain. Let's go ahead and open up his special here. Reduces paralysis special bind by 6 turns, so that's good. 2 debuffs. 6 turns is always good. Gives you an attack buff of plus 1,000, which is just kind of okay. And if you have slot effect boost when 2 or more turns are remaining, so if you obviously use Nami as a captain, for example, and then execute the special on this guy, it reduces the duration again. Again, like this is just, if you're gonna get rid of the duration of 1 turn of a buff, like, you have to be giving something really good in return, and this just isn't it. So yeah, I'm really not too thrilled with the rare recruits, to be honest with you, for this batch. So those are the 4 new units. So ultimately, like I said, I think if you had to put a gun to my head and say which unit is the best out of these, I definitely think that the Lilith and the Usopp are the better unit. I think they won't see as much play on the PvE side, but they'll definitely see some play on the Rumble side, right? I can already see some pretty nasty TreCru teams starting to get formed that could leverage them. Like I said, unfortunately, I haven't seen them in any of the normal Rumble matches I've been playing, so I can't really say, like, how good or bad they are, and I'm guessing that a lot of people probably haven't been pulling just based on what I'm seeing on my friends list for PKA. So it's tough to really get a gauge of, like, how good these guys are. But like I said, these guys will be on repeat banners. Because it's the end of the month banner, that means that any banner going forward, you'll have the chance to pull these units. So it's not like the end of the world. Like, it's not like a PvP banner where if you miss them, they might not come back for like 6 months, right? They'll be back on all the upcoming banners. So yeah, ultimately I recommend to save your gems. Do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you stayed for this long, I know this is probably a long video. And like I said, I apologize I haven't been able to get out videos as quick as I usually do. Going back to that cadence of getting out, hopefully near daily videos, if not daily videos. And yeah, we're back in full gear and feeling much better. Everyone's healthy again. No more dental issues, anything like that. So love to see it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of these units in the comment section. Like, did you pull for them? Like I said, even though I have gems, and I could technically buy gems, and I'm probably one of the biggest whales in OPTC, like, I'm just like, nope, I'm out. I have zero desire to pull these units. It's not worth gambling, you know, let's say you bought the 300 gem pack for almost 100 USD. Like, 6 multis for a chance to get these guys, just... It just isn't it. So that's going to wrap it up for me today. Like I said, if you pulled them and you like them, let me know, especially if you pulled them and use them in PvP. I would love to hear from you guys how that experience is. As always, until next time, be kind to each other. Thanks, guys.